All right, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trade. Today is Tuesday, July 25th, 2023. If you're not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, let's get into it today. So a little bit to unpack. Outside of being a really anemic day here, 48 million shares, basically like holiday volume, Thanksgiving type volume on the spiders. And obviously all eyes waiting on Microsoft and Google to report. Looks like Microsoft might be out here. Taking a look. We'll throw on our after hours charts there. So a little bit of a dump already. And looking at Google, I don't see anything yet. I'm just firing this up right now, so no idea what the numbers are, but a little bit of a dump there on Microsoft. My guess would have been that these guys beat bottom line estimates, and it's really going to come down to guidance. Again, I don't know what the numbers are right now. Snapchat reports after the bell too, obviously a smaller company, Visa as well. Snapchat always gaps down though. We'll see if that works out again. But Microsoft, we'll get back into that in a second. Initial little dump here, down 10 points to about the 340 handle. So that takes you right about there. Nothing major, at least not yet. It may come down to the conference call for these stocks. That's what happened with Tesla and Netflix, right? They were kind of choppy a little bit after hours immediately, and then they kind of, once that conference call came on, that's when they really started to dump. You can see Tesla still a little bit of a rejection there at that 20-day moving average, and again, still below that all-time high trend line. Good little reversal there on the weekly, and then Netflix also still on the weaker side there. I'm keeping an eye on Google here as well to see if they are out. But anyways, we'll get into that in a little bit. Spiders here floating up, holiday volume. Really the big thing is going to be the Fed tomorrow. And we're seeing, it looks like Microsoft might have just gone positive. The spiders are getting a bounce after hours. Their ES is pumping up a little bit. So it looks like, it looks like Google is out here. So Google getting a bid there. And again, we'll continue to watch this as we get into the video a little bit more. So spiders up a little bit after hours there. We see we kind of floated up here. We went right up into, if you caught the short video this morning, I talked about 45.75 being probably max move for the SPX today. And, we did pierce that by a few points, got up to 45.80. And it did pull back there and closed below 45.70 by the end of the day here. Qs also came back in as well. No new highs on the Qs yet. We are up in the after hours. Looks like Google still at 126, Microsoft leveling out at 344. But no new highs on the Qs right now at CSPX, and we've talked about that recently. Energy still remains strong. XLE getting a nice bid again today. And we're seeing that kind of rotation here. XLV, although it did gap down, did close back near the flat line. So we're counting on some of these sort of old world names to get a bid here as the money kind of rotates out of tech. XLF was down today. We did have some news out of the regional banks, Bancorp, I forget their name. Bank of California, in advanced talks to buy PacWest. And we got a pretty good dump there on KRE in the afternoon. Pretty good volume behind that. Still nothing wrong with the chart right now, but either way, a little bit of volatility going on here, and the puts on the Russell did explode here. You can see on IWM came in pretty sharply there as lots of regionals in the IWM. But either way, we're still looking for that kind of rotation, and we are kind of getting that. Again, no new highs there on the Qs. At least not yet. And it looks like we're coming a little bit off the highs here. If we look at the NQ, yeah, nice little pullback. So initial pop and then a pullback. Let's look at Google again. That's holding up okay. Well, Microsoft right back down. So a little bit of a split there. Either way, they can pump up to the moon. They can sell off into the basement. Everyone knows it's all about tomorrow, right? So FOMC, 25 basis point hike is completely baked into the cake right now. They're not going to waver from that. It's all about verbiage, right? Do they come out hawkish? Does the Fed see the same thing that I think smart money sees? We talked about this yesterday. Crude, that's a confirmed break of this trend line now. You're closing above yesterday's high after that breakout. Year over year, it's catching up. We talked about this yesterday. Soybeans, that's green year over year. Corn, green year over year, or at least, back to the flat line year over year. Gasoline prices, very close to flat year over year. Wheat, about to be green year over year. So this stuff is starting to stick. It's easy to go from, a huge CPI print and then level off, it's a lot harder to get it past, that level once it starts. So, I mean, you have, these inflationary pressures, war, insane amounts of fiscal spending, deglobalization. You create these bottlenecks, price goes up. It doesn't necessarily continue going up, but it sticks. So it's until these problems go away, you're going to have that inflation kind of tail off and level off. Everybody says it's going down. It's not going down. It's just not going up as fast. Everybody was celebrating, yeah, it's a 3.1 CPI. So that means that we're up 15%, or excuse me, 12% in the last 2 years, basically. That's what that really means. It's a lot more eye-opening when you look at it that way, instead of just saying, oh, it's 3%. It's down to 3%. No, it's still up. Does the Fed see that tomorrow? Do they take a hawkish tone? That's going to be the real, the kicker right here in the near term. But right now, again, 4,600 is your big level on the SPX. And, maybe even a pierce to that, 4,630. For the spiders, it's like 462, 460, 462 right there. There's your big pivot. For the triple Qs, 390 is still the level. We did close the week below 380, so no confirmed breakout really. But on the daily, we're still holding this trend line again, and we did back off of the 380 level today before the close. Again, tomorrow's close will tell us a lot more. And then really the weekly close too. Do we pump big on Wednesday, then fade? Do we fade, then pump? Where do we close the week? That's what we're going to be watching moving forward here. And again, that trend line is still intact. It's very steep though. So again, at some point this does break and you go down to this trend line. It's just a matter of if, or not so much a matter of if, but when. We also have Meta after the bell, and then we have Apple next week. So lots of catalysts moving forward. Again, SPX, same thing, trend line right there. You break that, which kind of coincides with the 20. This can take you down here, but right now, again, the next level is 4,600, maybe just like pierce of that. And that's what we're watching. IWM continuing to pull back a little bit, although it finished green by 1 penny. We see it pulled back in off the highs. No problems here, though. A nice little potential inside bar pattern, and that can still push up. Again, financials, if we get a rotation of financials and energy, you'll see small caps probably get a bid. We do have a lot of those in the Russell 2000. I think it can get up to 200 there, and we'll continue to watch that pattern. The Dow hitting that 355 level like we talked about yesterday, and pulling back there. It is a little overbought and extended here in the short term. It's 10 or 12 days here. We've had one red day, so a little bit overbought there on the Dow. But again, you're seeing that kind of rotation into some of the old world stocks, and that is evident there in the charts. Semiconductors did catch a bid today, up 1.6%. NVIDIA, mostly the culprit there. That had a nice day as well, though. Did come off the highs like everything else towards the end of the day. Look at Apple, good dump there. And obviously the Qs and everything else came in. Apple basically flat here, and it looks like the Qs are starting to rebound a little bit. So Google getting a pump to 128 now. So Google looking really good there. It'll be interesting to see the conference call. So that's helping help out the NASDAQ, and Microsoft still settling there. So again, I think these conference calls are going to really be the deal here, but they're holding up okay. Semiconductors still into a big double top on the weekly. And we're going to pull back. We pulled back off that, and we're just kind of holding this trend line. You break that trend line, then things get a little bit more interesting on the SMH, but I don't see any real issues right now other than it's extended into resistance. IGV still 370 area is our level. Actually, we'll call it 367.22 rather, and that did pull back off of that. Still, you break back below this area, then this one gets interesting, but I don't see any problems. Again, currently, Dow Transports, DJT still holding up okay. That one can still get to 16.5. Don't see any issues there other than it is definitely overbought. All right, so over to interest rates here. So looking at here's the yield curve here, and I tweeted this out earlier today. It's funny. So here's your flat line, 3-month and 10-year. Recession risk, and now everybody's saying there's no recession risk, right? Now that we have the deepest inversion and for the longest period of time here. So just kind of funny how these narratives tend to play out. But either way, let's get over to the 2-year. As always, this is still holding up just fine. The 2-year note did come a little bit off the lows, but again, holding this area. This can move up very quickly. The Fed is going to raise by 25 bips. So again, 5% will not be enough to roil the markets. If we start to push up through 5.2, 5.3, that's when you can see markets start to panic a little bit. But until then, the markets are okay. 5-year back above the 20 moving average. That's got to get above 4.23. If it does, it's going back to the highs and then higher. 10-year holding up as well, reclaiming that moving average back above 3.98. Can push that up to new highs. And then the 30-year, again, got to get above 4, and then that can push up as well. So yields still holding up. I don't see a lot of downside in them. Can they pull back? Can they do back-end filling? Yes, but I don't see them going that much lower if they do, or if not for very long at any rate. XHB still hanging in there, up 1% on the day. No surprises. ITB, same thing. That can still make new highs until proven otherwise. VNQ reversing off of our little trend line there. Would love to see a little bit more of a retrace on this one. Then I think, this might be a long up to 90 bucks. So that one's holding up okay. Again, we talked about how that chart has improved, higher lows, finally broke above 84. But, you're into this trend line here, and they may need to do a little bit more pulling back. But no real problems there. XLF, we talked about inside day there. KRE and KBE did get hit on that news. They may need to do some consolidating and stalling out, but they still can go higher once they do that. So those are, still in play there. Broker dealers also pulling back a little bit, but no real problems. That might want to get up to that, 530 area and retest both of those trend lines there. But that made a new all-time high yesterday. All right, over to energy again. So we kind of briefly touched on that crude holding up. That is confirmed above this trend line now and the 200 moving average. So 2 days above and above yesterday's high. Looks good. We got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Maybe the Fed moves it. Who knows? Could it reject by the end of the week? It's possible, but this looks pretty solid so far. If it pulls back here, I'm not sure how much lower it goes because we did close below that weekly red bar. We negated that. So I think this should go test 82.72. Maybe even that 100-week moving average. You get a close above 82.72. All bets are off. And then I think crude goes a lot higher. Not necessarily in a straight line. That's not a license to buy it if it goes above there. But that's a license to look for pattern and look for setups in the energy space. But, I was in the camp that if you break this line, it's going to go down to 60, 50 handle. But we've proven ourselves getting above these trend lines here. So it's proven that it's showing strength here. Doesn't mean it can't still reverse and go down, but probabilities are starting to look more and more to the upside here on crude. So that is hanging in there okay, and that looks strong. XLE also got a bid today, up 0.5%. Again, the weekly level here is still 85.08. Got to get a weekly close above that. Again, Chevron and Exxon report Friday, so that will be market moving there. XOP also holding up. We talked about 140. We'll probably need to stall out, and it is doing that so far, but no problems there for XOP. And OIH just, won't give me an entry here. Just wants to keep running. Would love a pullback. It should get one at some point here. But I just can't pay up for it when it's up like this and extended. But it, if it keeps running, it's going up to 360, 375. Would like to get a pullback before then, but we'll see. Sometimes the market doesn't give it to you. Nat gas holding up nicely. That was all over the map today. That we have a contract rollover tomorrow. Nice little pop, 1, 2, 3 pullback. That can pop tomorrow, maybe even into the weekend. I talked about $3 last week. That's setting up for that move there. So nat gas looking sharp, and it is putting in nice consolidation there on the daily and weekly. Dollar index into the 20-day moving average. We talked about that. That's pulling back right now. If this flags, though, again, there's no clear rejection yet, but if you flag, this could have a zigzag, so ABC type pattern, and then you got to look to around 103. If we look on the weekly, again, this is your big level. So if you get a weekly close, I'm bearish DXY right now, but if you get a weekly close above 102.56, that changes in a big way, and you have a bear trap on the dollar. Right now, there's nothing to say otherwise. It could easily just be a tag and tank into the 20 and right back down. Nothing to say that can't happen. FOMC tomorrow. We'll see what the Fed says. But that's the levels I'm watching there on the DXY moving forward. Onto gold here. So gold futures up 20 basis points. Nothing crazy here. We did close below that green bar yesterday, so a little bit of sign of weakness. It's holding up fine, though, and you had a big base to get through. Watching this for pattern. I'm not sure what it wants to do here, but you got to get through kind of this 1980 area. You've got a lot of consolidation there on the weekly. And, maybe you can go up and test 2,000. I just don't like how last week We rejected that 20-week moving average and rejected this red bar high. If it was strong, you would generally want to look for a close above that, but it was green today. We'll continue to watch it. Silver also green today with the weaker dollar. I'm watching this one for a pattern as well. Platinum also pulling back, but getting a bit off of 960, as we've talked about. I'm still not doing anything in the platinum space yet. And palladium, same thing. Want to get that below 1100. Copper, getting a nice pop. Maybe that can go test 4. We'll see what we get moving forward, but nice little pop there, up 1.71%, getting back above those moving averages. It's still a lot of chop here. I still think it's headed down, but it's showing a little bit of relative strength here, so we'll give it that respect in the near term. Lastly, Bitcoin getting a little bit of a bounce here, nothing crazy, so holding that 50 moving average. Intraday, going to want to look for these pivots here, so right around 25.4, 25.5. You get above that, then you can get back up to 29.4, 29.5. Then you can get back up to 29.8, which is where you're broke down from. But right now, just a little bit of a pause there. So nothing great, nothing spectacular. But again, still on the weekly, there ain't no problems here. So this is still a really good chart, and it can still take off to the upside, and it's consolidating. If it starts to fade lower, you don't want to go through 28.5. That would be a little bit of a red flag. And then you certainly don't want a weekly close below this green bar. That would effectively end the pattern. So, but right now, holding up fine. I don't see any issues. All right, let's quick flip back over here. Google, wow, 131. So nice pump. That's all the way up here. Let's look at some levels. Yeah, so it's kind of you got a weekly gap right there at 133. That could be something to keep on the radar tomorrow. But nice little pullback pattern there on Google. That's holding up just fine for now. And Microsoft selling right around 345. So those are obviously the big ones. NQ. Okay, so it's up just a little bit. We're basically at the highs of the day. So that's really the story right now. We can look at Snap. Of course, they dumped out. Look at that, 1050. Every time, I tweeted this out too, every time they report earnings, they gap down, and then it's like a buy the dip for the next quarter, and then it sells off again on earnings. So Snap coming down. Let's take a look at Visa. It doesn't look like Visa is reported yet. Perhaps it is. I'm not sure. All over the place here. But either way, Microsoft, Google are the big ones, and you're seeing kind of a flattish to slightly positive NQ. Watch those conference calls. That will tell us a lot more there. And then, of course, the Fed tomorrow is really the big one. But these are the levels we're watching here on the SPX, trend line 4,600. That's all we need to worry about right now. Anyways, guys, going to wrap up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. Talk to you all tomorrow.